So the clone stamp tool has been around in Photoshop for a long time, and it's been replaced by other tools that do a better job in most cases. But there may be some situations where the tool comes in useful, so it's worth knowing. So what I have here is this photo of a kind of ruined building with an open window here. I thought it was an interesting subject. So the first thing I'm going to do is just straighten up this window. So with my move tool and with my rulers showing, I'm just going to grab a guide to make sure that things are squared up. So unlock that layer and Control or Command T to transform. And then holding down Control or Command, I'm just going to adjust so that things are squared up nicely. Okay, I think that's good enough. I'm going to remove my guides. And then I'm going to make before I make a selection here, I want to just talk to you about how the clone stamp tool works. So if you choose the clone stamp tool, you can hold down Alt or Option and you can choose a source. So if I wanted to get rid of this sort of security light in this wall, if I just hold down Alt or Option and click, you can see that it has now set that as my source. And if I paint over here, it's literally copying from here to here. And in this case, because it is a fairly kind of grungy wall, it does a good job. So the more sort of random the texture, the better it's going to work. If this was, let's say, wallpaper where you had to match up the pattern, that's much more difficult. Okay, so that's how it works basically out the box, but there's other things you can do with this tool as well. So I'm going to go to this trees image, and what I want to do is I want to set a clone source for this area and this area here. So I'm going to open up the clone source panel. You can find it under Window. And I'm going to go to my first source slot. There's 5 possibles here. I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and click there. So I've set my first source. Now what I have also done is I've unchecked Aligned because I wanted to keep on returning to this spot. I don't want it to just keep painting this picture as I clone, because I'm then going to end up with things I don't want, like the lights, pole and the building. And then I'm going to go to the second slot and hold down Alt or Option and click there so that I've got 2 different sources now. I'm going to return here. I'm going to go to the first source and I want to just scale it up a bit. So I'm going to scale it up, let's say to, okay, I'll go extreme here. I'll go to 200 and see what that looks like. And now with a nice big brush, I can paint in here, and I'm cloning. You notice every time I release my mouse, it clones from the same spot. It doesn't keep track, so it's not aligned with the rest of the image. Okay, what I didn't do and what I forgot to do was to make a selection. So I'm just going to undo that, make a selection. I'm going to use my polygonal lasso tool. And I'm just going to select around the inside of this window. Okay, I think it needs to be refined a little bit with a quick selection. Okay, it's not a great job, but that's fine, it'll do. And back to the clone source, so let's do it again now properly. Okay, and then I'm going to switch to the second source, and let's put this size up to 140. And now I'm just going to paint in here. So you want to try and avoid a sort of patterning effect, which I've definitely got here. And so you can fill in areas and replace things by using sources from other images as well. So it doesn't have to be from the same image. And then one other thing is if I go to this image, here I want to paint the entire image into the window. So if I go in here and I set a third clone source and I hold down Option or Alt and I click here. And then I go back here and I start painting. Can you see the way, first of all, the image is too small. And secondly, when I release and start painting again, it isn't aligned. It just keeps going back to the same spot. So what I'm going to do is go back here and put aligned on and then hold down Alt or Option and click in the middle. And then back here, I want to scale this up quite a bit. So, okay, about 335 is good. And then I'll go to the middle of the picture and with a nice big brush, I can just paint that in. And I have taken literally this entire image and put it into there using the clone stamp tool. So it's an interesting tool to use for various situations. It can also be used quite creatively to create sort of more random results. And as I say, it has been replaced by more efficient tools these days, like the remove tool, but it's still worth knowing.